Shri Ganeshaya Namaha. Om Shri Saraswatye Namaha. Om Shri Sadgurubhyo Namaha. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma Vishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Ya Devi Sarvabhuteshu Buddhirupena Samsthita Namastasyai 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 Namo Namaha. Om Samasta Jana Kalyane Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Sadgurum Brahma Vidvaram. Om Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsa Chanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. Hi everyone. I can tell we've all been enjoying every moment of this camp to the fullest. You know, I see such smiles on everyone's faces and I think really a special glow, you know? It could be tiredness, but I think it's I think it's more enthusiasm, you know? There's this word that we were reflecting on, tripti, you know, tripti, that feeling of contentment, full satisfaction. I really love the way, Mike, is this better? Yes, okay. Better, okay. Testing, good? More? No, it's okay. Test. Better, okay. No, I can't read. Okay, thank you. It's perfect, it's much better now. So, you know, this feeling of tripti, Pujya Guruji describes it so beautifully, you know. If you've had a really satisfying meal, and you can just think back to lunchtime, so you'll remember, you have every single part of that meal is perfect. You know, from the beginning to the middle, all the way to the end, everything that you could have asked for, you've gotten. So then when you finish that meal and someone brings around some more food, more ice cream, more hot chocolate. See, there's a reason they put a little gap yesterday. At that time, if someone comes to offer us something, we don't even want it because we feel so full. So also when our heart is full like this, we don't need anything else. This is just a little taste of that supreme bhakti. And that path of bhakti is so varied, so different for everyone. Some very, very different types of practices, each one bringing something special. We've all gotten a taste of that also. Because these 2.5 days, maybe 3 days we can count if we count Friday night as well, they become like a understanding of how all of these practices inform each other and add to each other, right? So in the morning, we have something for the physical body. Then we have beautiful reflections in the morning time. Then you get to meet each of the Devis in the book also, their compositions, some reading, getting to express our ideas with one another, hearing from each other's experiences, then getting to learn from our wonderful, Vedanta teachers, our brahmacharinis, how they are each unveiling one facet, first clearing many doubts and confusions that we might be having, then giving us that sense of courage and empowerment in the practices that we have. I know you would have all learned about some of these different mistaken taboos that we might have, or even some doubts that we have in regards to how we chant, how we do our spiritual practices. Then we get that beautiful music. Then we all got to go on this yatra also, the Varkaris, and dance like Mirabai danced. Then we get to sing bhajans together. And that too, look at all the variations. We have a harmonium, we have beautiful dholak, everyone's voices. We also got to hear a lot of good stand-up. I heard some Vedanta jokes I've never heard before. And then I get the easiest job because you're all so full from enjoyment throughout the day. We're in such a good mood, Then in satsanga, we also get to reflect on Bhagavan's glories, Bhakta's glories. In one place, Tulsidas Ji has said that when two Bhaktas meet, all they can do is talk about Bhagavan. They're so happy. When two donkeys meet, they just give each other kicks. So we have to figure out who we are. Don't worry, we know. So there's such a great fulfillment in just meeting other bhaktas. They're so sweet. Even just speaking to all of you, I know we've all felt that. Being with the teachers, really, it just fills our heart. So we kind of explored yesterday that first and foremost, something that's really important before we even start this path in a very sincere way is that we have to reflect deeply on life. Without that reflection, this question of bhakti never comes to us. This is called vichara. So it says, avicharena krito bandhaha vicharena nivartate. Avicharo krito bandhaha. So without thinking, because of that, we become bound. Because we're just going through, like the washer-dryer cycle, just going around and around and around. I think somewhere I saw someone try to put their little sibling inside the washer-dryer machine. I think they were stopped before they could get too far, right? But we go round and round, just like that, socks in the dryer or something. Because sometimes we're up, sometimes we're down. But remember, because we're only seeing what's right in front of us, we don't see the whole picture. But at some point in many lifetimes of this rotation, then comes to our mind, maybe this is not the ultimate. There has to be something more. So vichara or reflection is the foundation upon which any spiritual journey can begin. Without that, we're just going to do the routine. Because maybe we think there's no solution to our suffering also. And, there are many different types of ailments. I'm sure that's another good topic of discussion during camps. What is my particular ailment, So I heard something very nice, that first when we get ailments, we try allopathy, right? Then that does not work, maybe, or it works, but we don't get full relief. Something else new comes. So then we try homeopathy. Then you try some of that also. Then that also does not fully help. So then finally you have to come to Ganapati. So at some point, have you ever heard the phrase that birth is a terminal condition? Life is a terminal condition? Normally we think only this disease can be terminal. But the fact that we're born is already a terminal condition. So that suffering for us to come out, only one place we can look ultimately. We have to come to Ganapati, Bhagwan. Then, question is, how do I become now I know I should pursue this spiritual path. How do I become sincere, become strong on this spiritual path? We were recently at a camp, and the Swamiji had given a beautiful reflection, which was, Every path has its own particular pitfalls. We know karma, bhakti, jnana. These three paths are there. But each one has its own particular issues. Just like anything that you develop, it can also go out of control also. Sometimes there are some plants that if you have to be careful when you plant it. I saw one fern. It grew so huge. It was probably from where this poster is to where that wall is. Huge fern. And a gardener was telling me that you have to be careful. You have to keep these ferns. See? Amma knows, she's nodding also. You have to keep that type of fern in a pot. Because if you put it in the earth, it's going to go and overtake all your other plants. So we have three equipment: body, physical body, we have the mind, we have the intellect. We were seeing that in our morning classes also, Shubhaniji was explaining, right? Now, when the sadhana is given, so for the physical body, we get karma yoga. Then for emotional body, we get bhakti yoga. For intellectual body, we get jnana yoga. Now, as we develop this element, it can easily go a little out of control, So for example, if we are too much involved in karma, karma, karma all the time, then even if it's karma yoga, meaning it's a spiritual or it's in the, done with right bhava or in the right field, say you're giving dana or you're doing seva, but the worry is we get too busy, just karma, karma, karma all the time. So that is the danger of this karma yoga, meaning, we'll see. In jnana yoga, the danger is, we're developing our intellect because we're thinking a lot. We're developing lines of how to understand the logic, how to see, what is the correct way to interpret different phenomenon, how to build an idea from piece by piece into the greater whole. Danger in jnana yoga can be overdeveloped intellect where we become judgmental. We take 2 classes, suddenly, I'm ready to tell everyone. I remember one of our Swamijis, he came to teach in our batch. He said, this is a big problem with our brahmacharis. They finish and they just want to catch anyone, even if they don't want to hear. And they pull them, they force them to sit down. Now I'm going to tell you. And he's like, he was so humorous. He said, it's like they're opening the mouth and trying to stuff that Vedanta inside. So then that danger of judgmentalism comes. Now I know how we're supposed to be doing it. You're not doing it. You're not, or this isn't right. That isn't right. In bhakti, the danger is over emotionalism, where our emotions we become so concentrated on them that instead of our emotions becoming purified and becoming a source of joy to others, instead, I force everyone else to listen to my emotions. The reason why this happens is because ego is very, very intelligent. One of our Swamijis, he had bats in the attic. And the bats were not coming out. And they called that exterminator quite a few times. But no matter what they did, the bats kept coming back. And they could not figure out where there was a gap in the walls that they were coming. I told Swamiji he's Batman. Because that's all these bats. So, why? Because if there's even some little tiny space, they'll come back. So also our ego is very smart. It knows through which channel to keep coming back. This is why even in the path of bhakti, which we are studying in depth through this camp, all of the Devis, if we study their lives, we'll see that they were not undeveloped in the other 2 areas. They were strong in all 3. Because what is the cure for over-judgmentalism? Love. What is the cure for overacting all the time? Spend some time quietly in reflection, in worship. What is the cure for becoming too over-emotional? My Bhagwan is better than yours. That feeling will come, na? That came up also in our discussion group. How about that feeling that maybe we're different gods? How do I know which one to worship? Is worshiping one, am I taking away from other one? Such doubts can come to us. So in that instance, we need the knowledge to balance our emotions so that we know whether we're on the right track. So it's very important for us also to have that insight into the lives of the Devis because they help us become balanced so that we understand how these weave into each other. So, in this topic of vichara, there's a very beautiful verse by Mirabai. So we'll read on page 65. If you all have your Woman Seeker book, it's the gold one. It says, with great love. Yeah.
With great love, I have churned the curd. When I have taken the butter, why do I care to drink diluted buttermilk? I see bhakti and rejoice. I see the world and cry. I am your servant, Meera. O beloved Giridhara, I am yours now.
So this verse is about that vichara. And you know that churning imagery comes more than once. Where have we seen it? In the churning of the milky ocean, right? That you have on one side devatas, other side asuras, and they go on going back and forth to churn the ocean to get amrit. But first what comes out? All the vishama, the poison. So she is exactly speaking about this, Mirabai. She's saying, you know, this world, I went on thinking on this world, churned it back and forth. I thought about all of the joys, I thought about all of the sorrows, all of the positive things, attractive things, and all of the detestable things, things that, make us, we wish to reject them. In thinking between these two, what emerged from that? I was able to pull, see, when we churn butter, I recently did it myself at home, but not with a butter churn. I saw a video, you can put that cream inside the jar and then you shake the jar. I'm telling you, it was like magic. So when we do that, the butter separates and then you get that buttermilk, very thin one, right? So actually these days, many of our kids don't know what full milk tastes like because they've only had that thin one. Skim milk, yeah. So what separates when that happens? You know, very interestingly, we'll see in Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavan Shri Krishna, Arjuna is there, and he's there on the Pandava side. And he asked Bhagavan Shri Krishna, you please bring my chariot and place it in front of actually it says, Senayor Ubhayor Madhye, Ratham Sthapaya Mechita. It says, between the two armies, please place the chariot. So Bhagavan Shri Krishna brings him to the center. So this is telling that in the push and pull between the positive and negative forces of life, we have to actually first, before the teaching can come, we have to come in the center. We cannot be attached to what we like, neither can we be attached to what we don't like. Actually, you have to come to the middle. We cannot have bias or preference. Then, when we've done deep thinking, what emerges out of that substance now? The substance of life, experiences. You start to find out what is the essence. And then once you've gotten the essence, you want to leave whatever is not essential. That's why it costs much more money to get butter than it is to get milk. Especially if you get, Kerrygold. That one's the expensive one. We used to have food fair in the ashram, and they'll always get the nice butter. So that's when you know they mean business. So that she said, I've gotten that essence, which is what? Bhakti, love for you. Oh, Giridhar, you are the essential part of this entire universe. Not the names and forms, but your essence that is upholding all these names and forms. So why don't I take that essence? Why do I want the other things? So as bhaktas, we get to that stage where we've thought deeply and we're tired of all of these other things. We only want that. That is a real sincere bhakta. So that is what we saw yesterday also. It's not that we get all the things in the world and, oh, Bhagwan, you can also come too, you know. Especially these days, even if you go to buy anything at the Indian store, Bhagwan's picture will also be stamped there somewhere. One of our brahmacharis, he's very devout. He used to feel bad about throwing away the incense packs because he's like, Bhagwan's picture is there. I can't throw it in the trash. So one day, he brought out his bag. He had like 50 stacks of this incense. I have to ask him what he did with it, actually. He might still be growing the stack. I don't know. So then that essential nature of the Lord, searching for that, this is the seeker's now journey, okay? So we're going to continue. All right. So, for that bhakta, when we're trying to also see, right, when we're reading these kathas, one of the reflections that we had is, in that katha about Janabai, that once she was accused of taking the clothing and jewelry of Bhagavan Shri Krishna. And all of the villagers, they accused her, when actually it was Bhagavan who took her scarf and went. So they brought her to that river, and that spear, they were going to, very dramatic, this big spear also is coming. And because of Bhagavan's Leela, that spear turned into water at that stage. So one question we had was, if Bhagavan's so all-powerful, why did all of this had to happen, He couldn't have made 2 scarves. Taken 1 scarf and then he doesn't have to take Janabais. So why? So everyone had beautiful reflections. Some Devi said, well, it is to show the strength of Janabai, that his bhakta, that test was given to her. And she was able to pass that test. She didn't have any fear. Some Devi said, okay, it was because the villagers who had the wrong notion, that wrong notion had to be removed. So Bhagavan made it in a place where everybody could see, right? And then some said, well, it was also to teach us. See, in 2025, we're still studying that katha, right? So how do we teach it to others? It becomes a teaching moment. And one, I think this is my favorite one, it had to be dramatic, because otherwise we won't want to tell it and keep telling it. If it was just very casual, we won't remember it and pass it on and remember to, enshrine it and all of these things. So it had to be dramatic also. Now, which answer is right? All of them has to be. Because Bhagavan can do everything at once. He's the only one that can multitask. That's not our job. But Bhagavan is doing everything at once. So, we also can reflect in many, many different ways how these bhaktas have purified themselves to this extent, right? So, there's a beautiful composition of Mirabai now on page 64. Let us see how she shows us that next step after vichar. Mine is on page 64.
Mine is Giridhara Gopala. I have none other. He who wears the peacock crown is Mira's Lord. Father, mother, brother, or kin, none is mine. Living in the company of saints, I have flung the pride of my family. I tore aside my veil of many hues and bedecked myself with coarse thread. Pearls and corals I cast aside to weave the garland of wild flowers. With my tears for water, I nourished the creeper of love. Now It has grown and it will give fruits of bliss.
It's very hard to speak after hearing her poem, but we'll reflect now. So, this is the heart of a bhakta, how they feel, you know? So that first line, you say, mine is Giridhar Gopal, I have none other. So, how much we value something is directly in proportion to what we're willing to give up in order to get that. We saw last time, no? That the essence of bhakti is tyag. Essence of love is how much I value that above all other things. So, first thing the bhakta says is, Lord is mine. Other things, they're not mine at all, actually. You know, she says this beautiful line, father, mother, brother, or kin, none is mine. Sometimes we think that that kind of sounds like we're pushing those things away, you know? Like, no, I'm giving them up, giving them up. But it's not a repudiation. Actually, it's just the truth. They're not mine. We can read it both ways, right? One is if we have to force that feeling because we don't feel that way. So we're saying, no, it's not mine, not mine. The other way to read it is, they're not mine. In fact, we don't know from whence our family has come. We don't know for how long we have them. I have come from someplace, they also have come from someplace. And we saw very nicely how many of us are exactly the way our parents thought we would come out. And now, our kids also, same thing we're seeing. Why? Because they are jivas, they have come from God. They're here with us, then they're going to go also. Therefore, I have no possessions, really. The one thing that I possess is Gopal, she says, right? Now, what's very beautiful is in the next line, she says, he who wears the peacock crown is Mira's Lord. So, in first line, I possess Lord. Second one, but Lord also is possessing me. Because remember, later on, we're going to see that Bhakta and Bhagwan merge into one. So you can see that in that juxtaposition between these two lines. First line is saying, he is mine, but I am his. Therefore, then, living in the company of saints, I have flung the pride of my family. We saw that most important gift, blessing that can come into our life, the thing that begins this entire path, even of vichara, is the presence of a teacher. Teachers are the saints. It says there's no other greater blessing than to come and be in the company of saints. And in fact, we were reflecting on that today, that how many have met Puja Gurudev? Wow. We have not met Puja Gurudev. And how many have met Puja Guruji? Yeah. So, what a great, what more can we ask for in this life? To have met saint, to have their blessings. If we're here together, it's because of his blessings. So in their company, when they reveal this teaching to us, and what is the teaching? I have no mother, father, brother, kin. I actually don't have any of these other relationships. The only relationship I really have that will be with me, that was there before, that is there now sustaining me also, and will be there forever, is my relationship to God as my own self. So in their company, I learned to fling away this word. Pride is very important, because it is the pride that harms us in these relationships, not the relationships. And family here means anything I call as mine. That's what family is, right? So it can be possessions, it can be anything else. These things are become my associations and family. So in the company of the saints, I have flung away that feeling of pride in these things, in these associations that I have. Even this body is considered like a house. Bhogayatanam. It is the counter on which all of the bhogas and transactions take place. So, all of these relationships, I have flung away any ego or pride or identification in these things. Then I tore aside my veil of many hues and bedecked myself with coarse thread. So in this, she's showing I have rejected the differentiation and chosen something singular. You know, the many, many different colors, we see so many differences. The first thing we see is differences more than similarities, you know. So all of those things I've just dropped from my mind. And these pearls and corals, I have cast them aside. Another thing to see about this, right? In favor of this wildflowers. When we think about the veils, many different hues, and then we think about pearls and corals, what are the commonality between these? This is what things other people value. So she's saying that what the world values, I have given those things up. And instead I have chosen what is really essential and valuable to me, which is the Lord. So even when we're reading that, we might feel, oh, poor thing, she cast away all of her nice things. But for her, we have that value, you know? She doesn't value those things. And then, of course, we love this line, with my tears for water, I nourished that creeper of love. Love is the feeling of identification, wanting to be close. You say, I love this person. When was the last time you saw them? 10 years ago. How often do you see them? No, once was enough. How can that be love? Love is the longing to be united. That separation from them causes me great pain and agony. In that the gopis used to feel this, used to cry. The crying isn't the sign of the love. The crying is the expression, but the feeling is there in the heart. That may I not be separated from you. So, when we say tears, that natural expression of longing to be close, that feeling is what brings us closer to the Lord, actually. Because where is the Lord? Lord is not in a physical place. Other days we were checking all the flights. Have they been canceled or not? Lord will never cancel our flight ticket, right? Lord only is asking for, have you looked for me at all? Have you even asked for me? You've never asked. So, with my tears, meaning when I seek the Lord, then that creeper of love begins to grow more and more. Dhyayato vishayan pumsaha, we saw, the lower objects. But when the dhyanam is turned towards the Lord, then this love grows more and more and more. In that Narada Bhakti Sutra, it says, see, if we know something doesn't mean necessarily we love something. Just knowing something alone. I might know how to change a tire. Not attire, but attire. Either one. I know how to change, right? But that doesn't necessarily indicate love. But if we love something, we want to know more and more. That just a basic understanding is not enough for me. I want to know fully. So this love and knowledge, again, they're together actually. Because if that love is growing, then the longing to know the Lord also grows. Then, now it has grown and will give the fruits of bliss. So when we seek the Lord, the result is Lord also seeks us. Because if we belong to Him, He also belongs to us. We're going to see that in the next poem as well. By Janabai, she has a very beautiful poem for that. But the result, of course, is bliss. Bliss. So we have not asked for the Lord. We asked for other things. Now, there was once a doctor and a lawyer. And they met at a party. So the doctor was, he was getting a little stressed. The lawyer said, why are you stressed out? Doctor said, wherever I go, Sudhaji might know. So wherever I go, people are always asking me for advice. Some kind of medical advice. And I'm so tired. I can never just relax. Everyone's always asking, oh, what about this? This is happening. How about that? In our Vedanta course, one of the brahmacharis was a doctor. And no matter what pain, they would go to him. But the joke was on everybody that asked him, because he would always say, take some Tylenol. He never gave any other advice. So, that was we always found that really funny. Anyway, so the doctor is asking, okay, so what do I do? They're always asking me for advice. I'm so tired. So the lawyer said, that's easy, Bhaiya. If someone asks you for advice, whenever people ask me for advice, I just send them the bill after. Then they don't ask me again. The doctor said, oh, that's a very good idea. So give the bill if anyone asks. So then the party finished. Doctor went home. Next day, he got the lawyer's bill in the mail. I really found that to be so funny. We ask for advice, but, we're asking for advice about happiness from people who themselves look so miserable. I still distinctly remember that there was one YouTube video, marriage advice from divorce lawyers. I watched it also. I thought it was interesting. But they know all the wrong things not to do. Very good. But what do we do then? So we ask advice from all miserable people, and then we get that only. But those who feel the bliss of that love, we never ask them for advice, because we don't want to hear it. One time, Swamiji had said, so why is the mind so elusive? Why is it that when we try to put our mind here, it wants to keep escaping? It is because this journey is the mind's quest to eradicate itself. That's why it'll always fight us. Hence, you need something sweet. Bhakti is so sweet. Without knowing it also, see, between our two parents, right? When one tells very strictly, we don't want to do it. If someone says very nicely, oh, yes, okay, I'll do. Right? So then, that mind fights, but if it is tamed, then it is able to concentrate. And then what happens? Something now starts to transform within us. So we'll see on that same page, the next poem, please. Yeah.
O crows, eat away everything of this flesh, but discriminately. Only leave these two eyes, for they still hope to see the Lord. O crows, pull out these eyes as well, and take them to His presence. Only make an offering of them to the Lord before you devour them.
So, when we give up these things that are not ours, they don't even belong to us, including this body. If you notice what pronoun she uses here, or what phrase she uses here, she does not say my eyes. She said these eyes, this flesh. So even in the language we see, she doesn't feel any sense of ownership because they don't belong to her anyway. Remember we saw in morning class, surrender is not optional. I wrote that as one of my cards. I'm looking at Chubani ji because she told us to write cards. So I wrote it as one of my cards. Surrender is not optional because Bhagwan always wins. So this doesn't belong to us also. Therefore, these eyes, what value do they have? See, with eyes, each sense has its own object. Eyes like to see the forms pleasing to the eyes. Ears like to hear that which sounds beautiful to the ears. Tongue likes to taste chai, likes to taste what it likes. Right? Skin likes to feel what is soft. Therefore, these senses, they have their own hunger. But in that bhakta, the only hunger that's left in this body before they drop that body also is hunger for the Lord. The senses also have totally changed their, that sankalpa, that idea of happiness has changed even in the senses. that eye is also the only purpose. Tulsidas ji says, those eyes that don't hunger to see the Lord, that tongue that does not seek to chant his name, that those eyes are like the eyes on the peacock. They're as useless as the eyes on the peacock. So this total renunciation of body identification, then what happens, we shall see in Jana by now on page 46. 46, the one at the bottom of the page.
Jana goes to fetch water. Behind her runs Hrishikesha. He doesn't let her hands and feet get wet. He carries the pot of water on his head. He fills the jar with water. He spreads the cow dung on the floor. He washes and brings back the laundry, says Nama's Jana.
At that point, see, we studied this notion of doership, feeling ownership in that action. When the one who feels that sense of ownership feels, I don't own any of this any longer, only I am thinking of you, that mind now, there's no individuality there to claim that action. So she says, Jana goes to fetch water. Now that water also, if you notice that phrase, it's not that she's going out into the world of action for something personal. She's doing dharma, her duty. So this is saying that bhakta that has renounced in this way, when they go out into the world to do their duties, what happens? Bhagavan runs to protect that devotee. That at this point, you have given everything to me. Therefore, who is left there in that body? Me only. So it is Bhagavan that is doing all of those tasks. Meaning it might be externally, we might see it as Jana doing that task, but really it is Bhagavan only. Because there's no individual called as Jana anymore. That we can give a lot of things away. Even in Bhaja Govindam it says that there is that, ascetic. He has given away all the material things. He just has the begging bowl and one cloth. And yet in his mind, there's still so many, that ego has not gone. And some have many things, ego is still there also. But here, there's no individual called as Jana anymore. Even that she is given. Meera also, we have seen that. So, it is Bhagavan that engages, see, he doesn't let her hands and her feet get wet. It means that in the performance of our dharma duties, meaning that the spontaneous performance of what is ordained for us, that jiva does not get any taint of karma in that action. The hands and feet, these are our karmendriyas, organs of action. So we have to engage in action in the world, but we don't become tainted by that. In Gita, that beautiful verse is there. What is it? Yoga yukto vishuddhatma vijitatma jitendriyaha sarva bhutatma bhutatma kurvannapi nalipyate. Nalipyate means they do not become smeared by any action because they have fully engaged in this yoga. Yoga of what? Purification of the self. Meaning we understand what is mine, what is not mine. That purification has happened. Jitendriya, mind is controlled, senses are controlled, we saw last night. And we see all beings as our own self. So at that point, action cannot taint the mind of that devotee any longer, of that jiva. Right? So Bhagavan only is now performing all the actions through that physical apparatus. So we saw that in Puja Gurudev. Someone once asked, Gurudev, you do so much. How are you not tired, exhausted? He said, if I was doing, I would be exhausted. But I'm not doing. If Bhagavan is doing, and how can Bhagavan get exhausted? It's amazing. And we've seen that actually. We see that in, I was asking even our Swamiji, he recently was having a little bit of health problem. We said, Swamiji, were you all right? You were still taking classes. He said, the moment I am sitting there and I invoke Puja Gurudev's name, I forget my body. He said, that is the one time I don't have any problems. Oh, it's so beautiful. So, merged, there's no individuality left, and it also is telling something that where's the problem really? It's not in the action, it's in the mind. It's the mind that has to give up. Body will keep acting. That's why even in chapter 15, it says, Mana Shasthani Indriyani. Mana Shasthani Indriyani. That the mind is the sixth. The five senses are there, mind is the sixth. But mind is kind of like the ones holding, the others are the tentacles of the senses are tentacles of that mind. So that mind which is given to God, that one does not get affected by the play of action and reaction. Now, we have just enough time, we'll see. We saw this last year a little bit, but now we have different angle for reflection, different way to understand. So I thought, let us see it again one more time. This is on page 49. 49. Just a couple of pages ahead.
I caught the thief of Pandhari, lovingly tying a rope around his neck. I made my heart a prison cell and locked him up inside. Binding him firmly with the word, I fettered his holy feet. I thrashed him, whipped him with this word, Soham. Thus, Vithala was left helpless. Sorry, O Lord, says Jani. By my life, I will not let you go.
Each Devi's life, that portion on each Devi's life, is structured in a particular way. It starts with Shravana, meaning reflection on her life story. Then her teachings. So that is a mananam, the reflection for us. Then the last portion is nididhyasanam. How do we now take the teachings and merge with the knowledge that we've now heard? How do we understand it fully, experience it, eating the mango, right? In this one, she's referring to that last portion. So this is that journey that Janabai is actually taking us on when we're reading her story as well. You know, first it is in the actions, giving up the sense of ownership. Then Lord only performing through her. Now what happens? Something very interesting happens. When Lord is performing all the work outside, then that leaves us inside fully to search for Him, seek for Him. It's quite funny that if you read that talks with Sri Ramana Maharshi, beautiful dialogues where people will come and ask and he will give answers. And what I always found quite funny is many people ask different types of questions, but his answer will always be the same. Luckily, they're not reading the whole book, so they think answer might be unique for me, but it's the same. It's kind of like that Tylenol. So whatever someone asks, he'll never give answer to that question. They might ask, how do we get these siddhis? Or how do I become peaceful in my life? Or how do I overcome this suffering? Or how do I find, so many different questions. He'll always ask, who is the one asking that question? Look for that one. So he'll always go to the heart of the matter, This is that nididhyasanam. So she says, I caught the thief of Pandhari. Thief is always very elusive. That is why they're good at being, otherwise they're a bad thief. I was an attempted thief. That's what that means. I was not a successful thief. We know many successful thieves. You just turn on the news, you'll be seeing. So that thief, very tricksome. So she says, even though you're so elusive, meaning that peace, that shanti, that bliss, so elusive, always hiding, I managed to catch you. We're also trying to catch this thief, but he keeps escaping from us. She said, I caught you. by how lovingly tying that rope. Now, this rope metaphor is also very interesting if we see. With a rope, do you know, we might think we are binding someone with that rope. But guess what? Two people become bound there. Because we have to hold the rope, right? Otherwise, the one on the other end will escape. So, by saying, I have tied you, meaning I am tying myself to you. Uniting with you. And I made my heart prison cell. What is again, effective prison? Not like the bats. What is effective prison? One in which that escaping is not possible. So if the catching of the Lord happened through my love and devotion, then that means, and love and devotion is there in the mind, that means that the mind is so fully immersed in the Lord, there's no little space where that mind escapes into some other object. That is what that full effective prison is. And locked him up within. Then I fettered his holy feet and thrashed him, whipped him. This is not pena. This is with that word soham. In that, Lord, where are you going to go? How are you going to escape? You are with me only. That's like asking the ocean, please escape from all the water from in the ocean. Or asking the pot, you please escape from all the clay. Go away. Clay, go somewhere else. Pot wants to be independent. Right? That's called crackpot. It can't be that way. So, when I say this word soham, this is the point of, saying aham brahmasmi is same. Soham means I am that. I am he. So by doing that, I erase any feeling of that separation. So this is done in the seat of meditation. One of our Swamiji says, in the end of yoga, in the mornings, you do shavasana, right? So there's shavasana, which is lying down, and then there's shivasana, which is sitting up straight, So if we don't know what's happening, right? We'll say someone in shavasana, they're lying down doing nothing. Someone in shivasana is sitting up doing nothing. But that's not what's happening. They're going deep within and erasing in that, one very nice example for this. If anyone's ever seen the cartoons, like the Looney Tunes cartoons, in one part, they will have, that character will be there and he'll pull out an eraser. And then he'll erase the lines on his own body and then drop the eraser and he's gone. So this is that soham. You're erasing all that boundaries of that individual identity. And in the end, that soham also drops and all that's left is silence. So this is the culmination of the seeker. So for the last one, we won't give any explanation. We just leave it as our contemplation. We'll read the very last poem in Janabai's Katha, which you would have all read maybe in your discussion. But let's read it again.
I eat of the Lord. I drink of the Lord. It is the Lord I rest on. The Lord gives, the Lord takes. Serving the Lord is the only daily chore. The Lord is here. The Lord is there. There is nothing other than the Lord. Jani says, O Vitha Bhai, you have filled me inside out.
जय जय राधा रमन हरि बोल, जय जय राधा रमन हरि बोल, जय राधा रमन हरि बोल, जय जय राधा रमन हरि बोल, जय जय राधा रमन जय जय राधा रमण हरि बोल। हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल 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 हरि बोल। जय जय राधा रमण हरि बोल। जय जय राधा रमण हरि बोल। जय राधा रमण हरि बोल। जय जय राधा रमण हरि बोल। हरि बोल। ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। हरि ओम श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। हरि ओम।